Hey, look, a pair of working legs. Dibs on these.
What? Oh, come on, Quagmire.
Joe, I said dibs.
No, you're right. You said dibs.
First Dibbs question of the day, sponsored by Trantolo and Trantolo. Any way you get injured, they've been fighting for you since 1938 to make sure you're compensated for it. So if you're a victim of any injury, get a hold of them. Dial 844-999-9999. Should the fumble out of the end zone be a rule, or should we get rid of that stupid thing?
I don't think so. I think we should keep it. I think it's perfect the way it is. I understand if you want to move the offense back to the 20 and not give the defense the ball, but you got to understand where this came from. So, long time ago, when it was like fourth down, you had the ball on the 5, come up with a great idea. We're going to pitch it to you, Rob. You're going to run out to the right. I'm going to be on the backside and be like a receiver, and I'm going to go in the end zone. Now, no matter what, as soon as someone comes close to you, you kind of like fall and then
fumble it,
kick the ball towards me, and I'll be wide open by myself. The ball will roll right to me. I'll jump on it, and it'll be a touchdown.
But I thought you can't advance a fumble. Like if they deem it to be intentional.
That's where you get into the gray area there, Rob. Deeming it to be intentional. You know a lot about that. I've seen the replay, Dibble. You had some intent to throw it at his head. Like, no, I didn't. I was just throwing it up and in. You don't know what my intent was.
True.
If I can come up with a way to do it, to make it look like I'm really fumbling it and I'm not just pitching it forward.
That's gamesmanship.
Yeah, exactly. That's gamesmanship. And sometimes when that gamesmanship backfires and it goes a little bit too far or maybe off to the right, crosses the pylon, Dems the brakes, boys. You lose that football.
I don't think Dems the brakes. My problem is the guy was trying to make a football play and score.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I remember this going back. But nobody else touched it.
Right.
The last guy to touch it should have possession of it.
Yes, but that is if you are in the 100-yard playing area. When you get into the end zone, that's where
Why does it have its own special area?
Yeah, it's because it's worth points, baby.
And I don't even like the fact that if it breaks the plane, it's a touchdown. I think the whole football should get in the end zone.
It's just the point of the ball, just where we can get that football. See, nobody's body part matters. Unless you're a quarterback trying to not throw it past the line of scrimmage. Other than that, those body parts matter.
I hate that dude could be out of bounds, wrap his arm back into play around the pylon. It's a touchdown.
It's all about the ball. The ball is the bell of the ball. And we all care about the ball. I don't care about your elbow. I don't care about your knees. Maybe when it knows if you're down or if you're in bounds. But when it comes to where the ball is and advancing the ball.
But it brings me back to the
ball.
last person who has possession.
Yes.
Possession is 9/10 of the law.
Well, what if I am fumbling it forward and then it hits a guy in the defense's knee right at the goal line?
They're the last one to touch it.
So the defense would get the ball in that scenario?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know.
Like dodgeball. It hit you.
So that way you can't have any kind of offensive interference or influence on that because, the offense doesn't want to give the ball to them.
On a punt or a kickoff.
Right.
Guy's calling for fair catch. He gets away from it. Somebody blocking. It hits the blocker.
Yeah.
And now the other team recovers it. They get possession. It's a fumble.
Correct. They can't advance that.
I'm not saying advance it, but as soon as it touches the player that was on the receiving end of it, even though it wasn't the guy who was calling for the fair catch, it was a blocker. It was what did they call those guys? The guys on the outside. Anyway, the gunners.
Yeah.
It touches a gunner that's just blocking, but now it changes possession.
Now let's say that punt doesn't get caught, it bounces and it hits the one guy, the guy on the receiving team that was blocking the gunner. Then it hits the gunner. Then it goes out of bounds. So you're telling me the punt team gets that football?
No, but see, he didn't have possession of it. That's the different rule. That's a different type of rule.
Right. So whoever touches it last rule would not work on the goal line then either, because if it touches
you said the goal area is a different rule.
Okay, if you want to play that, then the goal area is a different rule. Then if the ball hits a defender in the goal area
and then goes out of bounds,
it's the defensive
guys.
It's the defense's ball.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you're reaching for the goal line like Jefferson was, and I'm a defender,
and you slap the ball,
and I slap the ball.
You get possession of it, and that'll stop people from reaching.
So you're saying that if you reach for the goal line, and you drop it on your own accord, like we have seen most players do, that is still the offense's ball. However, if you're reaching for the goal line and get smacked by the defender out of bounds, then the defense made the play.
Yes.
The defense,
but I have to touch it.
So what your problem is?
Well, let me stop you there. My problem has always been the ball's near the out of bounds,
right?
And a defender doesn't have possession, and he goes out of bounds. Oh no! You didn't have possession in bounds, and you were touching out of bounds at the same time, so it still reverts back to the offensive guy. I don't agree with that. If you're sliding and your momentum's taking you out, but you just happen to tap it and it comes out with you, you should get possession.
Mm-hmm. That's the same thing as a receiver going out of bounds and being the first person to touch it after that. Once you are out of bounds, you're like not in the play anymore. Like you are a ghost. You do not exist. You are done. That's why you always have to stay in bounds at all times. But I think your problem is that the defense is rewarded for not doing anything.
That's right. They didn't do a damn thing. He was trying to advance it for a touchdown. It went through the end zone and out of the end zone, and then you're giving it to the defense. They didn't do squat.
That gray area, I can't convince you otherwise, or you
could convince me. I mean, listen, if that's the rule and that's what you're going to abide by, it was just a strange rule last night because as we were sitting there watching the game, we're all like, how'd the ball get on the 20?
Well, I don't know the game. I just know that this comes back from the early days of football where we're not passing at all. We're only running the football. And really, we're only running like a 5-yard gain is like, wow, what a run. And we get down to an area where, back then there were some blowouts and some mismatches, but there were a lot of 6-0. There was a lot of 12-3. Like, there's a lot of that. So when you get down to the end of the game, and I'm just playing this in my head to, like, why did this rule come about? I'm imagining that there were people that fumbled it forward and tried to save themselves from being tackled on a 4th down to losing possession, or end of the game, I'm getting tackled. I'm not going to make it to the goal line.
Throw it out there.
There's a fumble for you, and then try to go pick that up.
But I think that makes it more fun. And everybody going for the fumble.
I can imagine that it was this team that wasn't supposed to win the game going up against like a Walter Camp or one of these old time, like a John Heisman, one of these old curmudgeon football coaches that
Pop Warner,
his way or the highway, and then that happened to them, and they're like, never again.
We're going to put a stop.
Never again. That's usually how rules get made in all of sports. But this one, I think, is just an old rule that a lot of people that have been watching football in the last 20 years, they can't comprehend why it exists. And I'm trying to tell you that back in the day, there were some cheeky football plays.
Oh, I remember watching pro football 20 years ago, and there was a lot of fumbles that all of a sudden are tap, and it goes down the field, and the offense recovered it again and got a first down.
That's where batting came from, and you cannot bat the ball forward even if you're chasing. Remember the old move, like you and Chris, your brother, are chasing after the ball, and you're both 12 years old, and you might get it, but if you bend down to pick it up, then you're going to lose that little extra edge. So what you do, you kick it, and then you run a little bit further. And now you get, because when he was bending down, then
that was a hell of a play.
Hell of a play. I'm imagining in 1928, somehow, someone did that, and they're like, never again.
Not doing that anymore. We're over that. That's BS.
I
mean, it's kind of like the infield fly rule. It's ridiculous because there was probably a time
you're bailing out the defense.
That's right. You're bailing out the defense, even if the guy drops it. Now, they also allow you when there's not an infield fly where the guy could drop it, pick it up, and get a double play.
I think that's
like, okay,
wise.
Well, let's protect the teams. You're always protecting somebody is what I'm saying.
Correct.
Stop protecting people.
Now, I'm
Let the game
afraid.
go.
So the Kansas City Chiefs have a team rule. Do not reach for the goal line. We do not do that. It happened to them, I think, 5 years ago, and Andy Reid put it in place in the locker room on the bulletin board. We do not reach for the goal line on this team. We do not dive for the goal line.
Right.
We cross the goal line high and tight.
Although I've seen Mahomes do it a lot.
And I've seen them, like, I think Kelsey got yelled at about it last year when he was trying to stretch one in. It's like a natural, especially if you've been playing football your whole life, it's a natural thing to reach out. I used to reach out for first downs. Like,
everybody reaches for the
first downs.
For the finish line. Even in baseball, you don't want guys to jump for first base, run right through the base.
I just think that you're kind of bailing out Jefferson last night for not holding the football tight while he's crossing the goal line. And especially if you're going to see, you hate that.
How is that bailing him out, though? Because the Eagles got the ball.
But you hate if you make the rule different. What I'm saying, if you make it different. But you hate jumping over the pylon and just getting the ball over. Way to stop that, Rob, is you better have that ball in your hand, because if you want to try to pull that ball and you drop that, you're going to lose the football. I don't know, man. I say bring them back to the 20. Go.
We'll be back with Who You Got?